You know, it's funny. Have you ever thought about how a simple choice, something you do in a split second, might actually say something really deep about how your brain is wired? Well, it turns out your gut reaction to a simple shape, a spiral, might just be a little window into how you think. And our whole story today starts with one simple choice.
All right, take a look at these two. Don't think about it too hard, just go with your gut. Which one feels more beautiful to you? The one on the left or the one on the right? Got one? Good. Hold that thought, because we're going to come back to it in a big way.
I mean, humans have been obsessed with spirals for, well, forever. We see them in the swirling arms of galaxies, the unfurling of a fern, the shell of a snail. But here's the thing. It turns out not all spirals are created equal in our minds, and which one you prefer can be surprisingly telling.
So let's meet our two main contenders. On the left, you've got the Archimedean spiral. Think of it as Mr. Reliable. The distance between its coils is always the same. It's perfectly balanced, it's orderly, it's predictable. And on the right, that's the golden spiral. This one's a bit of a wild card. It expands by the golden ratio, so its growth is always accelerating. It feels way more dynamic, energetic, even a little unbalanced.
Okay, so this brings us to a really cool study from 2025. Researchers Hübner and Goodarzi wanted to know if there was some hidden pattern behind who likes which spiral. They weren't just looking for random opinions, they were basically hunting for psychological tribes.
And you know what they found? Something pretty incredible. People's tastes weren't all over the place. Nope. They fell into three very distinct, very clear groups.
Let's take a look at the breakdown here. So you have Group G, the golden spiral fans, making up about 38%. Then there's Group A, the Archimedean admirers, at 28%. There's another group in the middle, but for our story, the real drama, the real action, is between Group A and Group G. These are the two tribes with polar opposite tastes. And when I say opposites, I mean really opposite. The data shows an almost perfect negative correlation. So in plain English, if you're someone who absolutely loves that balanced, orderly Archimedean spiral, you almost certainly can't stand the dynamic golden one. And it's the exact same the other way around. It's like they're on opposite ends of a magnet.
So what's going on here? What's driving this huge divide? Well, the first place you'd probably look is personality, right? Maybe the Archimedean folks are just more organized and by the book, and maybe the golden spiral fans are more creative and open to new things.
But here's the twist. The researchers ran all the numbers, they checked it against the standard Big Five personality traits, and they found, well, they found nothing, a total dead end. There was no clear link at all. This mystery was a lot deeper than it looked. Okay, so with personality off the table, the researchers had to get creative. They stopped trying to find these big, broad connections, and they started asking a much simpler question. They just went back to the participants and asked, hey, why did you pick that one?
And the answers they got? Wow. This is where the light bulb really went off. Group A, the people who love the Archimedean spiral, they kept pointing to objective things about the shape. Their top reasons were words like uniformity and symmetry. But Group G, the golden spiral fans, they were using these subjective words like elegance and interestingness.
So for Team Archimedean, you could say beauty is something objective. It's baked into the math, the perfect, predictable order of the shape itself. But Team Golden, they were seeing something more. Yeah, they used those subjective words, but here is the absolute critical clue. They also made associations. They didn't just see a spiral. Their minds jumped to other things, like snails or ocean waves. And that mental leap, that ability to connect a shape to something else, is a huge part of creative thinking. So this discovery gave the researchers a brand new hypothesis to chase. What if this simple choice wasn't about personality at all? What if it was actually a sneaky little marker for creativity? They designed a brilliant follow-up experiment to put that exact idea to the test. The test itself was super straightforward. They showed people from both groups one of the spirals and just said, tell us everything this shape reminds you of. Then they measured two key things about creativity. First, fluency, which is just the total number of ideas you come up with. And second, originality, which is how unique or unusual those ideas are. So first up, fluency. How many ideas did each group generate? Well, the results were pretty stark. The Archimedean group came up with a respectable average of 3 associations, but the golden spiral fans, they hit an average of 5. They just plain produced more ideas.
But hold on, because here's the real kicker: originality. It wasn't just that the Golden Group had more ideas. Their ideas were also rated as being almost twice as original. The connection was undeniable. Liking that dynamic, surprising spiral was strongly linked to a more associative, creative way of thinking.
So, after this whole detective story, what does it all mean? Let's zoom back out and connect all the dots. What does your favorite spiral actually say about you?
Just think about the journey we've been on. Your choice wasn't just a random whim, it actually places you in a tribe with a very specific taste. One of those tribes finds beauty in objective, perfect symmetry. The other is drawn to subjective qualities and making interesting connections. And as we just saw, that key difference seems to link directly to how we measure creative thought.
Now, let's be really clear here. This is not a personality test. You're not an Archimedean person for life. What this research suggests is something way more fascinating. It's a link between what we find beautiful and our cognitive style. What you're drawn to visually might just be a reflection of how your mind works, whether it's tuned to appreciate perfect order or wired to generate surprising new connections.
Which brings us all the way back to the beginning. Now that you know the story behind these two shapes, which one did you pick? And does it give you a little clue about your own mind, whether you find the deepest beauty in perfect, predictable order or in an elegant, creative surprise?